What a journey this team has taken us on here in the Jacksonville Jaguars franchise. We have won a Super Bowl in this series after 5 years of building this team up. With the story at the forefront of all of this, surrounding quarterback Chuck Johnson and his ascension from 6th round draft pick, backup quarterback to a former number 1 overall selection, to then becoming the starter, the franchise quarterback, and Super Bowl MVP quarterback of this team, handing the franchise their first Super Bowl. And the final game of his rookie contract was that Super Bowl victory. What a storybook ride Chuck Johnson has taken us on in this series. It has been a story unlike any other in any of these franchises that I've done. It's surprising it's taken this long for a story like his to take over a series. But many of my franchises have gone the traditional route with the high drafted and developed quarterback that was supposed to be a franchise guy. But how about the underdog story leading us this time for a franchise that has been an underdog for the majority of their existence? The top goal of this franchise is now complete as we have our Super Bowl championship. But we are not done, because these series are not just about accomplishing the goal. I think that the journey is more important than the destination in the series that I do. And now that we have that title, the goal is to see how we can keep this team together, because now we're going to be seeing a lot of players earning large contracts, and that includes Chuck Johnson. I'll be offering him a big contract here today as we go through another offseason and set up the rest of this series. I don't know yet what it's going to look like, because we are now no longer just concerned with trying to get to the postseason, trying to make it to the Super Bowl and winning it. But there's still story to be told about this team. How long can they stay at the top? Can we keep this core together? What challenges await us now that we move on to the next era of the franchise? The goal for me in this franchise was for it to feel like a return to form. The fast-moving, entertaining franchise rebuilds I had back when I came up with this format. And I feel like I have succeeded in finding that and allowing us to move at a faster pace, tell a good story, but certainly not have things take too long to get going. And now that we are entering the next stage of this series, where it's kind of seeing what happens with this existing roster, I would just like your feedback on what you think of the videos and what you would like to see, what would entertain you most with this team. But today it's the offseason, our favorite episodes, of course, and we do have 2 first-round picks this year, courtesy of the Eli Arrington trade with Miami. Now, being that it's staff week, this would be an opportunity for other teams to hire away our coordinators. And it doesn't appear that anyone has been hired away. Even Garrett Pratt, with all the talents that we've unlocked that have helped make this offense what it came to be at the end of this season. We've invested a ton into the offensive line development, the running back development as well, as those are 2 very young position groups for us. We actually haven't gone that far into the pocket passing tree, but have boosted short accuracy, and there are other upgrades we could look to make. Let's see what our defensive coordinator has to say. We're talking about off-season workouts, and let's talk to Martin Cooper, our youngest high-tier edge rusher. Cooper had to take a little bit of a step back this year, as Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker were both really good. Yep, it's as simple as that. Keep working on the pass rush moves. I have no concerns with that. But these scenarios are a really good chance for you to focus more on a player's athleticism, which is a tougher thing to improve in franchise. And of course, we are continuing the stories for the young players on this team that have only spent a couple years on it. Joe Johnson played a really key role in our playoff run, and it felt like the backfield shifted a bit, favoring him. Wide receiver Kevin Parker was not able to play for us in the Super Bowl, but was certainly a big part of helping us get to the postseason and have success within. Parker will be entering Season 2. And of course, we have this secondary built for head coach Nate Bell with ball-hawking players. Telfer, to me, is a player that compares very well to the Nate Bell I had back in the Jaguars franchise a decade ago over on the main channel. Remember that we did have 2 retirements, as Daniil Hunter and veteran tackle Taylor Decker did retire, but I wasn't expecting those guys to come back. And before we get too far into it, just thank you all for the support in this franchise. It has felt like a very refreshing series in so many ways. And to see the enthusiasm as we continue to build this team up and have success, and then even win the Super Bowl, and I'm still seeing so much feedback surrounding how much more you'd like to see from this team. And that does mean a lot. If you haven't already done so, subscribe to the channel, as I'm hoping that these franchise rebuilds can continue to match this quality. But wait a minute here, we have the Phil staff popping up now. Did we actually lose somebody? We did. Our offensive coordinator did get hired away. Garrett Pratt has been hired by the Cleveland Browns, and he's made Jonathan Gannon his offensive coordinator, despite Gannon having his entire coaching background on the defensive side of the football. So there's a little Matt Patricia feel to that one there. But Cleveland has hired away our guy, Garrett Pratt. Now, I don't like how they hire a good offensive coordinator, but now he has nothing in his head coach skill tree, and it feels like, you know, maybe having these separate trees for each role is a good idea on paper, but as soon as you promote somebody from a coordinator role to a head coach, you're kind of losing the benefit and their upgrades. So I'd really like to see all of that get reworked. The biggest impact it honestly has is now we don't have that coordinator. We do not have that boost. So we have to go get somebody new. And we are going to be hiring Lucas Giovanni as our new offensive coordinator. I want access to the open field moves tree because the top level boosts the short route running for running backs and receivers. And then from there, you can work on some of the skills for ball carriers, and spin and juke will get better, acceleration as well. I think that's a valuable tree. And we also get this power running portion now that can allow us to further upgrade the running backs while still being able to focus on quarterback if we need to. Now, his skill tree is a little bit different where we don't have the short passing boost right away, but the throw on the run is available. I could go to the other side for an accuracy boost for Johnson, but I think at this point it's very well developed. I feel like the right side is good for like a young developing quarterback, and the left side is good for just adding on to a guy's skill set. Throw under pressure, throw on the run, break, sack. That's much more my focus. So we're going to buy throw on the run right away. We're also going to go back here and get that +3 boost then for short route running. And given our young receivers, that's going to be a nice boost for them. I'm also going to try to go all the way down here on this side just to get at least 1 for each. Spin and juke getting better for the running backs. And then I do want to buy acceleration. I want 2 of those. I think that's one of the most important skills at running back. Just those first couple steps, getting to the hole quicker than a linebacker can meet you. Acceleration matters more than speed, I believe, for a lot of situations. But you know what we came to do today. I'm sure the title and the thumbnail tell you everything you need to know there. Chuck Johnson has arrived. And I can hear it now. It sounds like that Brinks truck is getting in position. Did they just hit something? But we are going to be offering Chuck Johnson a large contract extension, no doubt about it. There was some question prior to our hot streak toward the end of the year. Do you give Chuck Johnson $40, $50+ million a year? Well, with the run he went on and how legendary it was, he's absolutely getting the deal. This is, I think, very similar to like when Joe Flacco got paid, where there was questions about whether he gets a contract, but then his run was so good, you were definitely not going to say no. But I think Chuck Johnson is a dynamic player, and he's demonstrated over the course of the last 3 years that he is a very good quarterback and can now play with the best in the AFC. This 9-game stretch where we did not lose includes only one thrown interception. Despite all the pressure he was taking on throughout the postseason, he still wasn't making mistakes. 18 touchdowns, 1 interception in that stretch, and then throw in the 4 rushing touchdowns there as well. Chuck did not run for the most touchdowns as a quarterback this season. Lamar Jackson ended up with 12. For a while, Johnson was the league leader, but did get passed up by a few different players. And Chuck is now seeking a $51.1 million per year contract. I am prepared to offer a 6-year deal that would take him up to age 31, right on the doorstep of regression, essentially. And going from 5 to 6 years does lessen the cap hits a little bit in those first couple years, just smooths them out a little. And then the extra year tacked on gives you more restructure flexibility. You know what? 7 years is the most you can offer here in franchise, and we're going to offer the full 7-year contract then. That gives us optimal contract flexibility. And we are going to be offering him a 7-year, $360 million contract. And Chuck Johnson has accepted the deal. He has now climbed the mountaintop and earned himself one of the biggest contracts in the league. In terms of overall contract value, Lamar Jackson's is worth more. Lamar's cap number this next year, by the way, is a staggering $106 million, which means for the Ravens, Lamar is counting a whopping 33.6% of their salary cap, which is just astronomical to think about. In comparison, Patrick Mahomes' contract, which is now entering the final season, is a $71.2 million cap hit. I don't know exactly what's led the Ravens to a $100 million number. I'm guessing they had to give him a new contract then sometime in this series if it's a 5-year deal and there are 2 years left. That is not leaving the Ravens a whole lot of space. And now we move on to our next era of team management. When you have that rookie quarterback, you have the flexible cap space to go and seek out extra offensive linemen, multiple weapons at receiver. But now we go from a quarterback on a less than $2 million cap hit to now 50 plus. So $52 million remaining. And I've already talked about how our next move could be trying to get JD Short under contract. And now we have 2 options. He actually has more interest now in signing. I wonder if his motivations could have changed. The difference now is that we won a title, so our historic championships are in the right spot for him. But I offered 3 times earlier in the year and can no longer just offer him straight up a contract. I can only use the franchise tag, or I have to go to unrestricted free agency and compete. I really don't have a lot of interest in doing that, but the tag is worth $27.8 million. In comparison, if I were to sign him to just this $54 million contract over 3 years, we're looking at more like 18 a year, but now 27 is the tag number. I would like to tag JD Short coming off his great season, but this is about $10 million more than I was hoping to spend. And those 2 deals right there leave us now with $24 million in cap room, with Curtis Easley unsigned, Jonathan Moore, the 26-year-old defensive tackle coming off a 9-sack season, who wants $25 a year. So that would eat up our remaining cap space. Andre Cisco wants over $10 million per season. Sergio Baxter, this is a 5th-year option decision. I don't think that I would pick this up, but I still like him as a starting safety. Cameron DeVoe, we're going to let go. There's Anton Harrison. This is where it gets tough now to maintain your depth. Before, it's easy to say, okay, $5-6 million for a good backup tackle. We can handle that. Now, there ain't a lot left. This is where you have to instead look at, can I draft a good backup tackle in the 4th round? Pay him, $1.2 million a year instead of the 6? The math gets different. The questions and solutions get different. And I don't know that I'm going to offer any more contracts here in this stage. This is going to be a challenging offseason. I will offer to Logan Cook, but that's the last one. $22 million left in cap space. Now we have to look at, are there ways we can open up some more space on this team? When we look at just how we could save some money, there's one move that is easy from a financial standpoint, and that would be moving on from Josh Hines-Allen and letting Martin Cooper take over. Hines-Allen has been one of the faces of this team. Huge part of our success. But we have two really good edge rushers outside of him that are both younger, and this contract is looking like a bit of a problem for us. We could save $15 million by moving off of him, and that might have to be something we consider. These are the largest cap hits we have for the next year, where Chuck Johnson counts for $52.5 million, Josh Hines-Allen $29.9, J.D. Short and Trayvon Walker are both at $27.8, then Sam Cosmi at right guard. Joey Harper is also there, and I have talked about moving on from him. And this would make a lot of sense if the penalty weren't $19 million. So I picked up his option, and I assumed I'd have more flexibility than this. So I believe I'm actually on the hook for that money now, and there isn't a way out of it for me. Wow, there certainly could be some change going into the next year. What a way to kick things off. So I'm just demoing things here a little bit. If I do put Joey Harper into a trade, Chicago here has $14.5 million in cap space. They'd only have to pay him the $1 million. So I can't really make that move. He'd only count $1 million towards their cap. We'd be eating 19. Whether we release him or trade him, it doesn't make a difference. This is a nice way if you want to know, like, how much cap space do I have if I move off of a player. 21.8 is our current number of cap room. If I trade Josh Hines-Allen, it moves to 36.7. And there just aren't a lot of easy ways to save significant money this year. I think Josh Hines-Allen is the one player that makes the most sense to move off of, especially considering we have edge rushers behind him. This is free agency, where there's a 93 overall quarterback who has come available, Caleb Ross, who has been playing for the Rams throughout this series. Free agency in this franchise, I think, has been great. Like, this is a very simple approach I've had for my XP sliders. I've really just boosted the young guys and lessened the development on players as they get older. And it's gotten some of my favorite results from any of these series, oddly enough. So that is a huge player on the move. I wonder what landing spot he ends up with. But Chris Lindstrom, Philip Costello, Callum Shields, a lot of really good players. Free agency is, like, awesome in this series. But how much can we really play around in it now? I think those days are now behind us. The draft is more important. Freeing up space is more important to keep our own players. It does seem like now we're going to have to legitimately move on from a lot of players, including Curtis Easley, who is due maybe $10 million a year. Very solid tight end coming off a career season with us. Where does Jonathan Moore go? Because I don't think I can really offer him a deal right now with what we're losing. He's coming off an 11-sack season. And then Andre Cisco is one of the mainstays from the early days of this franchise. He was on that initial roster, and I don't think we can easily afford to have him return. I always think about this in my series. Who is like the last man standing from that day one roster? There aren't a lot of names here that are on the team still. At this moment, there are only 5 players on this team that were on it when I took over the Jaguars. Logan Cook, Josh Hines-Allen, Devin Lloyd, Trayvon Walker, and Brian Thomas Jr. So I got to thinking about how if I tried to trade Joey Harper, I'd have to eat most of the cap hit, and it wouldn't really benefit us. So I was thinking, let's just reverse that. Let's find some teams that haven't been very good and maybe find some players who we wouldn't have to take on a lot of cap for, but we could give those teams picks. But just the way the trade market works here in Madden, they really need to change things up when a player only has like 1 year left on his deal. He's not that interested in coming back. Like a 3rd round pick here for Chauncey Cheeks isn't even like a third of the way towards getting a deal done, which to me would be a beneficial trade for Chicago. And it would give us a starting caliber player that we'd only have to count towards the cap like $1 million. That would be a nice solution if Madden agreed with me. And if I can't get a star dev 82 overall safety for anything in the ballpark of a third round pick, then I don't think trades are going to go anywhere right now, unless I include players. So we own 15, 32, 64, and 96. I'm very interested in consolidating and moving up if the right player makes sense, because we are getting ourselves pushed into a spot where our first round pick probably has to play immediately. We might have 2 or 3 rookie contributors on this team. I only have $20 million right now to spend, another 15 or so if I move on from Josh Hines-Allen. I do think our starting offense is in a very good spot. We can return the entire offensive line and every other starter outside of Curtis easily. It's the defense that is a greater concern. I think we're moving towards trading away Josh Hines-Allen, which keeps us 2 great starters, but it eliminates the depth of our greatest advantage. And now we have a glaring need at defensive tackle opposite of Bowen, plus we need to find a starting safety for this year. So Bowen is definitely going to be counted upon much more in this coming season. He only had 1.5 sacks last year, thankfully maintained his star development despite being a part-time player. I spent a lot of our scouting this year on the offensive tackles, thinking that Harper is here for one more season. I really thought we were getting prepared to trade him this year, but that doesn't help us financially. But it's still a really good tackle class, where we're seeing those players projected with top 5 talent not quite have that true talent. But there are enough of these players where it shouldn't be that hard to get a first-round tackle if that's the route we choose to go. It seems that defensive tackle and safety are the greatest immediate concerns. Thankfully, I have all these grades for the D tackles. Wow, we got a round 2 to 3 grade here on Lance Johnson from North Carolina, 357-pound run stopper with elite level strength. So there's an interesting player for us to keep in mind. But we have 6 players here either with solid round 1 or rounds 1 to 2 graded talent and a lot of run stoppers. So this draft sets up nicely for us to get a young player here. And I like all these grades I'm seeing for Alex Ratliff, 21-year-old out of Notre Dame. Elite strength, ran just over a 5-second 40 time, good acceleration, and can really do it all. I imagine, though, he's a top 10 caliber player in this class. They have him at 14th. And the skill set appears similar for Shaq Cook from Texas A&M, another run stopper. And what I like to see are these run stoppers that can do more than stop the run. So much versatility with solid athleticism. This is the year to draft a D tackle. The workouts might have to be kept aside then for safeties to finalize some grades. Philip Harden looks like a player who could step in as an immediate starter with good zone coverage. A 4.47 40 time is really good. Great combine all around. And with B block shed, C hit power, C tackling, there is some run stopping ability there as well. I have him then a solid round 1 player. Not sure I'd even need the workout. I'd be confident enough. Maybe I spend those on these strong safeties that are more hybrid skilled. They all look pretty good. Let's switch over to their combine information where they all put in very solid 40 times even. Gil McKnight stands out to me, 21-year-old from Tennessee. Not only can he cover tight ends man-to-man, he can tackle, he can hit. A kick return gives you an idea of the type of athlete we're looking at here. McKnight's got to be high on our board. I think the best thing then for our remaining cap space is just to attempt to get some decent depth at a couple spots. So I'm going to throw out low offers here and see if we can get a player like Anton Harrison to return. It's hard to add a lot of depth at edge rusher because even backups are going to be $6-7+ million a year, but outside of the big 3 we don't have anybody on the roster. Not often we see 24-year-old players, though, here available in free agency. Kalen Chamberlain, who is looking for a franchise quarterback. He likes Chuck Johnson. We're all Chuck Johnson fans here. Kalen Chamberlain, not a lot of playing time. 2 teams in 3 years. Chamberlain is a power guy with good strength. I'm going to have to make my offer a little bit low, but we are a good fit for what he's looking for. I'm also going to see if we can bring back Brandon Aubrey. I'm going to offer a bit lower because we are a good fit. Maybe not $60 million. Let's get it more in the 4.5 range if possible. Very different free agency from the other ones that have helped build this team. I'll even attempt to offer a 1-year deal to Andre Cisco, around $8.5 million. And if he accepts this, then it's going to accelerate the trade of Josh Hines-Allen. But that's all I can do right now in this early stage. That's a little over $20 million in offers. Let's see what we get. None of those players signed with us on the first try. No one signs on the second try. And then one decision is ultimately made, but we do not end up getting Cisco to return. Caleb Ross is going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers now on a 5-year, $293 million deal, it appears. Chris Lindstrom to the Patriots, Philip Costello to the Raiders, Callum Shields to the Falcons. Jonathan Moore signs on with the Green Bay Packers. Looks like around 3 years, $75 million. Cisco, he's going to the Dallas Cowboys. 3 years, a little over $22 million. That's not bad. They were able to guarantee him more years than we were able to. And then Curtis Easley will go to the New York Jets. 3 years, $32 million. Simulating to the next stage, Kalen Chamberlain shows Buffalo, who offered $6.8 million. I am attempting a reunion now with wide receiver Caleb Davis, who has played a nice role these last couple years. I would love to have him back on this team again. Rashad Good is a former first-round pick who at this point in his career has been a bust. He finally got playing time on his second team in New Orleans, but failed to record a sack and then suffered a knee injury that ended his season. He is recovering right now from an MCL tear, but I would like to give him another chance on our team. I'm only willing to offer another small 1-year deal, but it is an opportunity for a player who was once a first-round selection. And we've signed Brandon Aubrey back to this team, so we will keep our special teams intact. No one else signs, though, during Stage 2. At this point, I think we have the option of trading away Josh Hines-Allen, but maybe it's not an absolute necessity if we can achieve what we need to during the draft. Those 4 top 100 picks could help us solve the remaining issues on this team, and then we could draft some depth. But if we need to trade Josh Hines-Allen, maybe that's more of a late in the offseason move than right now. Let's now check out the mock drafts and see what is predicted to go down, knowing that last year this was not accurate, and my main targets went way earlier than expected. But it's looking like we have a tackle going number 1 in Thad Wyatt. He's been the projected number 1 now for 3 of the 5 mock drafts. Gabe Shorts could be going as the second tackle at number 3. Titans picked number 1 last year and improved all the way to being number 2 this year. So growth out of that team is good to see. Rick Timmons, defensive end. Then we go Lamar Odin, another pass rusher, and Jacoby Traynor. Shaquille Cook is the top player that really crosses my radar as a player I want to target. At 15, we might have a route up to get there. The Raiders wanting a 4.3 speed receiver here feels extremely on brand. I hope they get Rodney McAllister. Mitch Barner, George Jackson, and then we get to us at 15. They have us going pass rusher. Don't see us ending up there, but we could see a lot of the tackles off the board before we select. Alex Ratliff, Jawan Booker, these are now defensive tackles projected to go after our first initial selection. Then they have us taking Luke Dickerson. We're certainly not doubling up on pass rushers here in the first. If we sit at 15, we may be able to take Ratliff. That is a maybe. Last year's draft is going to haunt me for a while. I'm not going to be able to trust these things for a minute. But Ratliff would not be like a bad player to wait for. And the skill set compared to Cook is extremely similar. We have signed Anton Harrison. So we still have yet to add an outside player in this offseason. We have signed center Tanner Bortolini to be depth. And that's our first signing outside the organization. And we do come to an agreement with Rashad Good. So it is a bit of a third chance for him. And we'll see when he's healthy enough to take the field again. But I thought this was an intriguing move. As I mentioned earlier, I'm comfortable with Philip Harden as a first rounder in my head and my heart, so I will instead focus on the 3 strong safeties then for our workouts. And all 3 of these safeties here had round 1 talent, and I believe Harden could as well. So we can get a starting defensive tackle and safety in this class, it appears, without too much issue. And this extra scouting makes me really interested in Mike Goodson. He is a couple years older than some of the other options, but the speed, the A-hit power, the cover ability, this guy can probably do it all, and he's 5'9", 225. He's built like a bowling ball running back, and he can kind of play running back from a safety alignment. So a final look here at the mock draft then. When do the safeties begin to go? Because it seems defensive tackle, the spot you have to look at here is number 8. Then they have Alex Ratliff going at 17. Mike Goodson now is projected to go at 25 to Tampa. Gil McKnight, who I liked a lot, is at 29. I think we definitely look to move up with 32, but we see how the draft falls then from 15. It's nice to have 2 picks that have some space between each other. You kind of get access to different tiers there. So let's begin our newest NFL draft journey. 2 picks right now for the Jacksonville Jaguars to prepare for, but it's the Carolina Panthers who select at number 1. They attempted to trade for the Saints quarterback last year, Max Friedman, and now the Panthers pick at 1 and the Saints pick at 24 as they had Jalen Hurts come over and win the NFL MVP. The Panthers are expected to go tackle with their first pick, and they do. Thad Wyatt. That's what was expected. At number 2, we have Tennessee, who's expected to go edge rusher, and they select Jeremy Owens. Everything going as planned so far. Gabe Shorts goes to Arizona, Rick Timmons to Chicago, and Pittsburgh winds up with Lamar Odom. So the top 5 perfectly predicted this year by the mock. It's not easy to separate these defensive tackles we like toward the top, as Shaquille Cook and Alex Ratliff are both round 1 players. B awareness, B power, B finesse, B block shed. Been waiting for a class like this. It's showing up at the perfect time for us. This is as close as I've seen 2 prospects at the same position, same archetype. What about the abilities then? We have Alex Ratliff, a physical player who delivers bone-crushing hits, loves to utilize a spin, has a swift arm over, has the bull rushing, and it seems that Cook has all of that in his pass rushing arsenal as well. The only thing that's different here that I'm seeing is that Ratliff has the disciplined trait when it comes to injuries, whereas undisciplined seems to be Shaquille Cook's trait. Ratliff is also a year younger. So far, the top 7 picks have been perfectly predicted. Seattle is next. They select Shaquille Cook. Do the Raiders go with the 4-3 speedster? They do in Rodney McAllister. Braxton Childers. The Eagles are the first team that switches things up. And I am not taking the chance here. I am giving up our 3rd round pick and our 6th round pick so we can secure the defensive tackle that I wanted here in this first spot. I like getting defensive tackles that have versatility, even if it takes some time to unlock it. But I think Ratliff can be a well-rounded player on day one, so there's no reason to let him slide any further and allow a team to select one of the most well-rounded players in this draft. Alex Ratliff is our selection, the number 7 player in true value, and he has hidden development to go with 94 strength, 70 speed, 81 acceleration. And this allows us to maintain a very fierce front four with 2 starters on rookie deals. As far as now thinking about the safety position, I'm targeting more like 24, 25 for a potential trade up there, depending on how things fall. I'm kind of keeping an eye on if the draft is going as planned. And this is a pick here that wasn't predicted. Mitch Barner was not meant to go to Denver. And now San Francisco gets a tackle in Brian Allen, a different tackle than they were projected to take. And that other player hasn't even been drafted yet. Now, Detroit was going to go Alex Ratliff, so this is a true wild card in this spot, and they'll go with a linebacker instead. Our rivals in Indy are on the clock, and they add left tackle George Jackson, who slides a little bit further than expected. I really thought that I would be in the mix for the tackles this year, and just hasn't played out that way. 7 offensive tackles go in the first 22 selections. Even this far into franchise, the Saints are still over the cap. One day they'll figure things out there. We are moving up again to 24th overall. I am trading this year's 4th round selection and next year's 2nd round selection, which means we retain this year's 2nd round pick at 64 overall. That'll give us another option for this year. But I am going to be selecting here. I think I like Mike Goodson. It's hard to break the tie. And usually here I would just go with like the younger player. But Goodson has the A grade in man coverage. I like seeing the A grades. He has a little bit better hit power. He's a little bit faster. There really is a lot to like about both players. But Goodson is faster. He's stronger, better in man coverage. He is older. But I think he can step in and make an impact for us right away. The pick is Mike Goodson out of Clemson. He is ranked number 12 in true value. Here comes the boom. I mean, what a perfect way to kick off a scouting report. Goodson, hidden development, 92 speed at safety. That puts him in a very elite tier. And I can't wait to see that skill set starting day one. And of course here, every time I see him, I'll be thinking about former Panther running back Mike Goodson, a 4th round selection who scored 3 rushing touchdowns in his career. Gil McKnight goes the very next pick, so we'll have to make a little comparison there. But more than happy with how our 1st round has played out, and we still hold on to an extra pick in the top 100. The Packers just took a 1st round receiver. Are they okay there in Green Bay? There's a run on receivers going late. The Saints took another one of our 1st round projected safeties, so they are all gone. And we'll just kind of see what's there at 64 now. I think that now that we have filled those 2 glaring needs on the team, we can go pretty much anywhere and maybe look for a future starter. Not too concerned right now, though, about position. But I believe the first quarterback was just taken. The Bears select Jared Davis. He was projected, I thought, to go earlier, but I don't recall seeing him in the mock draft. For the Bears and Caleb Williams, Williams is an 87 overall, and now they consider him to be a bridge quarterback. They are thinking about moving on. He is a true 85 overall, so he finds himself in an interesting spot 6 years into his career. We'll see if Davis is anywhere near good enough to push for that starting job, but not going in the 1st round isn't a promising sign. Philip Harden goes at 48. I did give some thought to doubling up on safety with Sergio Baxter entering the final year of his contract. There have actually been 4 quarterbacks selected here in the second round, and these days we don't really see quarterbacks taken here. You're kind of a first rounder or a late rounder now. Just based off of the talent that we know, there are still good defensive tackles available. I'd love to draft and stash a really good tackle, but the remaining players don't appear to have starting upside. So I've gone through all the positions, and I'm going right back to the defensive tackles again. But despite not having the best talent here, I am really intrigued with Brendan Allen. 6'5", 300 pounds. And he comes with elite speed, good change of direction, agility, acceleration. So here are his combine grades. He runs a sub 4.7 40, and his 3-cone comes in, 7.4, 7.5. One of the defensive ends that I liked is Earl Webb. And athletically, I would say Webb is only a little bit more athletic. I'm not sure there is a significant difference. So like when I selected Martin Cooper in the second round a couple years ago, he just seemed far too good to be available. And that's where I am right now with Brendan Allen, who I think at 300 pounds can legitimately play on the edge if you ask him to, and can be depth at both defensive tackle and defensive end. So I am foregoing the talent grade advantage, despite there still being some really good defensive tackles, because of the versatility here and the finesse moves. 66 in true value. We take him right at 64. Allen, normal development. 78 speed, 81 acceleration. So we have to wait a while now. Our next pick will come at the end of round 5. I'm not seeing a lot that stands out here at the end of the 5th round, but I'm going to select Oklahoma State guard Kevin Buckner now, who at least has some okay grades for the pass blocking. The injury is low, but not thinking of him as a future starter, and we draft him right around his true value, so not bad. And now to select Mr. Irrelevant after our Super Bowl winning season. And we are selecting with our final pick, running back Juan Rhodes, a receiving back from Delaware. And that concludes this year's draft. It took me way too much time to figure out who I wanted here in rounds 5 and 7. But welcome Juan Rhodes to the program. He is, well, we're not getting the ability to see his development or any of that stuff here at this screen. So there is our class, 5 players. Juan Rhodes, he ends up with normal development as a 66 receiving back and a 66 elusive back. He'll compete for a bottom of the roster spot, but is a good pass catcher and a fellow Chuck Johnson fan club member. But we made our big move at the top, selecting Alex Ratliff, a 76 overall defensive tackle. We get 2 hidden dev players in round 1. Ratliff is extremely strong with a run defense-oriented skill set, but there is going to be some pass rushing there as well. And I'm excited to see the type of duo he could form with Bowen, who we selected last season. We are a great fit for Ratliff. And then we get the safety Mike Goodson, 5'9", 225. That is a very unique build. What was Bob Sanders? According to Pro Football Reference, Bob Sanders was 5'8", 206. So Goodson, 19 pounds and an inch taller. Goodson, 92 speed, 70 tackling, with good man cover. Zone cover at 72 is very good, I think, to start out with. I'm excited. He has the entertainer personality, aggressive play ball tendency, and is filling in for Andre Cisco, who has been a core piece of this defense. And with this move, I have now reconstructed the entire secondary. Now, was I trying too hard here on the Brendan Allen selection, thinking he might have defensive end athleticism as a defensive tackle? He's not quite there, but he can still provide us depth inside. I think he could still play outside if necessary. He has the finesse moves, but still is better suited to rush from the interior. And then Kevin Buckner selected final pick of the 5th round. Can he at least be a backup guard? I think with these ratings, we can certainly get him a roster spot. But here's how everything went down. As Thad Wyatt went number 1 to the Panthers, a normal development left tackle, 73 overall truly, who is not a great overall pass blocker. He is much better run blocking. The Titans take Jeremy Owens. I know they made a really good pick last year, but this season select a 72 overall normal dev pass rusher who relies on his power, but his athleticism is actually very close to the defensive tackle we took. Would you rather have Jeremy Owens, who went number 2, or Brendan Allen, who went number 64? The overalls feel pretty underwhelming toward the top of this class. Doesn't seem there were many generational talents. Gabe Shorts here looks like a good pick, but even the highest rated rookies here at the top seem to have some glaring issues in their game. I'm not sure that Shorts has like franchise tackle upside. I'd like to see higher pass blocking on day 1, maybe a little more strength to get there. Shaquille Cook went at number 8 and is a lower overall than Ratliff. Both hidden dev players though. So the Seahawks get Cook, very similar to Ratliff, very strong, good run defender, power upside with athleticism. You weren't going to go wrong either way. It was just going to be the cost of moving up, which it was much better for us to try to get to 11. So then we have at wide receiver, 77 overall, Rodney McAllister. He goes to the Las Vegas Raiders. 97 speed, 94 acceleration. Their next attempt at finding a big play wide receiver. But in round 1, the highest overall player taken was a tie between McAllister and Glenn Whitworth at cornerback. This is pretty underwhelming to see so few players above a 75. Was anybody missing outside round 1? No, those two were the highest rated in the entire class. Definitely a good running back class, though. That's why so many went in round 2. Overall, we made 2 selections in round 1, selecting the 4th highest rated player, along with the 10th, who's in this 75 overall tie. So 2 top 10 players in the round, despite where we selected, is really good. The Rams made the worst first round pick strictly from an overall rating standpoint. In round 2, we got to see quarterbacks going off the board, but Caleb Williams' job could be safe. We'll have to see if Jared Davis is able to develop enough. He at least does have hidden dev immediately, with good short accuracy and throw on the run. Free safety Philip Harden does go here right in the middle of the round, and he was tied for the highest rated player selected. I was confident in his skills, but didn't really consider him there in round 1, just seeing 3 for sure round 1 guys. And ultimately, Mike Goodson just had some standout traits that separated him from the pack for me. But there were 4 good safeties worth taking there, which isn't the case every year. In taking a 71 overall, we did get one of the lower rated players in round 2, but it was also the final pick of the round, so that's to be expected. We did not pick in round 3 then with all of our trading, but there were still some 73 and up rated players out there at a lot of positions. Overall, I'm pretty satisfied with the offseason. I like the day 1 starters we added in the draft, and we have yet to trade Josh Hines-Allen. I thought it was going to be almost a necessity to do that as we filled in the roster. So as long as I like where things are right now, it looks like he can play out the final year of this contract. We're sitting with $11.3 million in cap space currently. Now, I should point out that Rashad Good is not going to be able to come back for a while. I signed him to a contract knowing he would be injured going into the year, but he is going to miss the majority of the year. He might be able to come back in the stretch run. Was that the best use of $4 or $5 million of cap space? Debatable. So I will be having Jermaine Johnson return to this year's team. And I'll even add pass rusher Brian Coleman, giving us some more depth. I thought he did a great job as our backup quarterback last year, had to play meaningful snaps in one particular game. I'm sure he's regressed a little bit, but I'm bringing back Baker Mayfield. Wow, look at some of the names here that are just available in the free agent pool. Jonathan Taylor was cut at the start of the offseason, still unsigned. Isaiah Pacheco, in most franchises that I've seen the last few years, just becomes like a 95 overall running back in KC. Right now, 79. I might have to make a signing here, because I'm seeing Adonai Mitchell available. And just to have like a downfield burner on the roster could be a nice role to have. And his ratings are just too good to be available with no one interested. And then I'd really like to get a mentor, even if it's temporary, at tight end. And Dalton Schultz is the best available. We have a lot of young tight ends that could learn a thing or two from Dalton Schultz. And after all of that, here is our team going into now, Season 6. I have just auto-reordered the depth chart. I haven't really set anything here for the new year, but we made it. You know, we lost some players, but we replaced our biggest departures with first-round picks. We did not have to trade Josh Hines-Allen after all, which I'm pretty surprised is where we end up here going into the new season. But it seems like we're setting up for this to be his last year in Jacksonville. But this team is ready to go, and there isn't a lot different than the Super Bowl winning team. I'm excited to see how our rookies step in, and if this defense can still be a proven force in the AFC, and if we can do a good job of defending this Super Bowl title. I'm looking forward to seeing what stories and challenges await us in this series. But Chuck Johnson is at the helm, and he has yet to let us down. So if you wouldn't mind leaving a like on today's video, I would really appreciate it, and I'd love your feedback as well. These have been some of the most fun comment sections to go through, seeing the excitement in a series like this. Whenever there's this much excitement, the comments are a lot of fun to go through. Just one final thing I'll leave you on. These are the players whose we have to make decisions on this year. So a lot of players will be free agents. We're projected to have nearly $200 million in cap space, and that's with Chuck Johnson under contract. But the likes of Martin Cooper, J.D. Short, Edgerrin Cooper, Joey Harper, Trayvon Walker, a lot of big names become available after this next year. But for now, not much is forced to change going into Season 6. Thank you all for watching today's video, and I will catch you when the new year kicks off next time.